the county has public emails, the city has public emails, and there was an email sent out by a county health professional. I don't remember exactly who it was, but I pulled it off their website, public, put in an article and blasted it out. And it was 10,000 people within a day saw it, and emails, calls, people were showing up. I mean, it generated so much panic that they immediately retracted.
What did the guy say that you put out? What did you catch him saying?
He sent an email to local city government, local mayors and city councilors in the county. So they sent it from, Tom Gonzalez was his name, county health professional, to all the local mayors and cities across the county, asking for their support, including the sheriff. Saying,
support in what?
Trying to get this trailer removed that said resist the fascists. So he's asking local governments.
So, in other words, he was being a fascist.
Yeah, he's trying to use the power of government to restrict somebody's right to speech who is a political protest against what was going on.
The power of one guy's voice is pretty awesome. Brandon Wark is going to join us, but first, subscribe and like our channel. Click on that little bell icon for notifications, and please find Devil's Advocate Podcast on your favorite platform. Brandon Wark from Free State, Colorado. How long have you been in Colorado?
Well, I'm born and raised in Colorado, John.
Born where?
Arvada.
Arvada? Well, that's not really Colorado. No, Arvada is great. Free State, Colorado is a website, but it's a bit more. How do you describe it?
Definitely. So Free State Colorado, primarily a website, freestatecolorado.com, but I also have a YouTube platform, Telegram channel, Twitter, and Facebook, of course. But the idea I have is to create this culture of liberty. And how do I do that? Well, it's to give a voice to people, to try and connect this great liberty community that we have, and really try and inform people about what's going on. There's so many news stories that happen every day that just get lost. So to try and shine some light on some of these important stories and try and engage people in their local politics is really my goal.
What I love about Free State, Colorado is it is all Colorado politics all the time and on all different levels. We forget there's 5,000 governments in the state of Colorado. And the major guys, yeah, they can cover what's going on in Denver a little bit and a little bit of what's going on in the Capitol. But what goes on in city after special district, after town, after school district, that's where the news is lacking. And I look at Complete Colorado, I look at the work that our columnist Corey Gaines does, and I look at Free State, Colorado as a go-to site to know these things, and in depth. Why so passionate about it?
Oh, I appreciate that, John. I mean, this is my home, born and raised here, Colorado native, and I'm not going anywhere. I've heard it so many times, and I'm sure you have too.
Why don't you leave?
Colorado's lost. It's a blue state. Get out of here, You got to fight somewhere. No matter where you go, there's going to be a fight there. So I'm going to fight where I'm strongest, at my home. I love it here. I'm not leaving. There's so much opportunity. We have so many great things going for us, from the Taxpayers' Bill of Rights to our home rules to different things that will allow us as individuals, our citizen initiative process, to give us the power as citizens to really have a voice, have an influence on our government. And I think people just need to get more engaged and see what's happening at that local level, because like you said, there's so much focus on the president, on overseas, things that are out of our control. But our local city governments, our counties, our municipalities, special districts, we can have such an influence.
I don't think people understand just how influential 1, 2, 3 people can be on a local government. It will change a local government. Showing up at a committee meeting makes a difference. The phone calls matter because it's not Washington, it's not your congressman. So you're not going to leave Colorado. I was at having lunch someplace in Castle Rock. Somebody recognized me, and we started talking, and he pulled out his Texas driver's license to show me. He said, been in Colorado all my life. I just can't take it anymore, and I'm this guy now. And he still comes back to Colorado for a large portion of the year, but he's a Texas citizen because he cannot take how socialistic, how command and control this state, and particularly in the metro areas, have become. And I have sympathy for that. You must have sympathy for that. If you are very libertarian, this is no longer a libertarian place, and it used to be.
Fair point. I have a lot of sympathy for that. I know a lot of people who are in Wyoming now, the Dakotas, of course, Florida is a big destination for Coloradans to expatriate. But, we still have so much opportunity, especially once you get outside of the metro area. You get away from the Front Range, you go on the Eastern Plains. I recently moved to Greeley. After the whole 2020 debacle, I wanted to get up in Weld County where restaurants...
Why is that?
Because I went up there once and a restaurant was still open. People weren't wearing masks. People have that, a lot of people, not everybody of course, has that attitude of, I'm gonna do what I want, I'm gonna live my life, and I'm not gonna listen to what those people in Denver say. And I think a lot of people have that same attitude once you get outside of the metro area, whether it's the Western Slope, down south of course, or even up north. It's a shame that Metro Denver controls so much of the state's politics. Of course, that's how it works. It's a numbers game. But at the same time, your local county, your local city, they don't necessarily have to play along with all of the policies, restrictions, and regulations that they push out in Denver. So really, I want to spread that message of, show up at your local committee hearings, show up, know who your city councilor is, know who your mayor is, know who your sheriff is, talk to them, have a relationship with them, get involved. And it doesn't take that many people to have an influence, whether it's a local election or a local policy discussion at your city council meeting.
I don't know how to put this. I've seen your video products. They're not what you call slick. They're not what you call high technical value. There's rarely an explosion, a car chase, or a lesbian love scene, and it's just you at your computer. Why do you do it that way?
It's easy. It's quick.
It's easy.
I can get something out very quickly. I could film a video in 10 minutes and then get it out to several hundred people or interview somebody. I've thought about that, and I guess this is a message for anybody else out there who wants to be a content creator or wants to provide information to people is, how much time are you going to spend? I can make a graphic and spend 2 hours trying to refine that graphic and make it look perfect, but the return on investment is so low. In that same time, I could have clipped that video into 10 different videos and have content for all the week, days to get it out there, or produce more and more and more. So a lot of times, I think, especially in this day and age with social media, things move so quick. You could take hours to produce one piece of content, and then after a week, it's dated. Or you could spend an hour to produce a piece of content every week, and you have a lot better return on investment that way.
It reminds me of talk radio back when there was talk radio, which is the mic goes on, the red light turns on, and you're on. And whatever you say goes out. And you keep, as they say, keep the needles moving, no dead air. And it creates something odd and beautiful in its own way, which talk radio is, compared to a television station, which has to have B-roll for every story, has to have the right graphics, and that's where all their time's spent. So, and besides, we get to look at your gorgeous face. What kind of stories have you broken at Free State, Colorado? What do you dive into? Give me a couple examples.
Mostly local politics. I got to say, probably the biggest news story I ever had on my website was actually in 2021, up in Fort Collins. The city government there was trying to remove a semi-trailer that said "Resist the Fascists." It said "Resist the Fascists," and it was parked on county land, on private property, but near the county health building. And Larimer County Health did not like that at all. So there was an email.
Who's the fascists? Because usually, the fascists are conservatives, but here were the fascists the ones locking down the state.
Yeah, the county health department trying to shut down everything they could, right? We all remember those crazy times. And the emails are public. The county has public emails. The city has public emails. And there was an email sent out by a county health professional. I don't remember exactly who it was, but I pulled it off their website, public, put in an article and blasted it out. And it was 10,000 people within a day saw it, and emails, calls, people were showing up. I mean, it generated so much panic that they immediately retracted.
What did the guy say that you put out? What did you catch him saying?
He sent an email to local city government, local mayors and city councilors in the county. So they sent it from, Tom Gonzalez was his name, county health professional, to all the local mayors and cities across the county asking for their support, including the sheriff. Saying,
support in what?
Trying to get this trailer removed that said "Resist the Fascists." So he's asking local governments.
So, in other words, he was being a fascist.
Yeah, he was trying to use the power of government to restrict somebody's right to speech who was a political protest against what was going on. That article blew up, and it was amazing to see. I couldn't believe it, how much interest there was on it. I mean, people from all over were sharing it. I couldn't believe it. So that's in the past. Hopefully those days are far behind us.
But what it did is it gave voice to somebody who was trying to use their voice. And if you didn't pull that out, maybe he would have been pressured to remove that. I remember contacting the ACLU during those times, saying, "Hey, let's do something together. I mean, you guys like the First Amendment. You say you like freedom to associate and freedom to worship. And good God, there are Muslims out there who can't get to their mosques. You're crazy about that stuff. Let's do something together." And like, no, we're following the science on this. And I keep wondering what happened to the liberals of my youth, the ACL liberals, the people for the American way, common cause type of liberals who would have gone nuts for anybody getting pressured when it was their free speech. They fought for neo-Nazis in Skokie, Illinois, but now they're gone. They're just gone. And so how odd is it that it's now the libertarians and conservatives who are pulling that up? So the thing stayed.
Yeah,
good work.
The trailer stayed up there. The sheriff pushed back against the county, saying this is a total violation of this guy's constitutional rights. They backed down and had a lot of egg on their face, that's for sure.
It also just shows the arrogance of the left. It shows not only do we have the power to tell you what to do, we're going to use our influence to tell you what to say. And that was a lesson of COVID. COVID taught me so much about how people are willing to accept mandates and control and lies, but that fear gets people to behave. I learned a lot. So give me a couple of more examples, because you dive into a lot of good local stuff.
Right now, I'm doing a video series with Natalie Menton, a great liberty leader in Jefferson County, really trying to expose that cronyist relationship that's going on there with high-paid consultants and the county commissioners to take away our taxpayers' Bill of Rights refunds permanently, to de-tabor the county. And it's really unfortunate because times are tough right now. People are struggling to pay their bills as it is, and to have more tax increases, more property tax increases, take away our tax refund money. I think that's something that the voters need to be made well aware of. And unfortunately, these Jefferson County commissioners, they spend their $340,000 hiring this consultant company to craft a ballot measure, to do polling, to do some focus groups, to really craft this ballot measure, to make it so it seems more likely to pass. Natalie was telling me they changed it from crime to a different word, to try and manipulate the voting
They're
public.
wordsmithing the ballot question.
Yeah.
Isn't that amazing? So when I put something on the ballot, I have to go to the title board. And these three bureaucrats do their best, and they write the ballot title, what people see on the ballot. Here, since the commissioners are doing it, they can wordsmith it and massage it, and they're spending $350,000 of taxpayer money to wordsmith it so that they can take millions and millions more later. How is that not an ethical violation?
It is definitely, I would say it's an ethical violation. It should be illegal if it's not, for these county commissioners to hire a consulting company to use all their political tricks they've used to elect all their politicians over the years, to use it on the taxpayer dime to craft a campaign plan that then they can just enact and roll into place.
Who's the company that he hired?
The Bighorn Group. That's Ian Silveri's company.
So the guy who used to do...
Ian Silveri used to head Progress Now,
Yeah.
which is kind of that nexus of the blueprint model here in Colorado, in my opinion. Married to Brittany Pedersen, congresswoman from Congressional District 7, former state representative and state senator, of course. And Ian Silveri,
even that, how that is not a major mainstream story, that the guy who ran Progress Now played a big part in turning Colorado socialistic, who's married to a congresswoman, somehow gets a $350,000 contract from counties to try to suck more money out of taxpayers. For those people who don't get it, most cities and counties have debruced permanently. They've de-tabored, meaning that they can keep this government can keep all that excess money. Whereas in Jefferson County, they haven't been able to. And that means that excess revenue gets refunded back to the people. Why this is so important is now that our property values have gone skyrocketing. I live in Boulder County. In Boulder County, our property values go skyrocketing. Now that Gallagher is no longer, the Gallagher Amendment, our property taxes are going skyrocketing. And we're not getting any of that back. But in Jeffco, they're getting a big portion of that back because they didn't get rid of Tabor. And now they're going to go up, and is this a third time in 5 years to say, let's do it again?
Yeah, they're going to keep trying, and it's so important for people to pay attention and get involved and really look behind the scenes too and see where this money's coming from. Last year I did some really good analysis on Proposition HH and where all that money was coming from, because I think that tells the rest of the story. Is you see who's funding it, who are they connected to. I mean, even this year, I'm really excited to see, maybe excited is the wrong word, but I am excited to see who's going to be funding a lot of these different initiatives and where this money comes from and who's behind it all. When you see that boldly forward, Jared Polis's nonprofit spent hundreds of thousands of dollars, if not millions, on Proposition HH last year. It kind of tells me all I need to know about the initiative. So a lot of it's just tracking that money down. And with Tracer, Colorado's campaign reporting website, it's easy for individuals to do. And it's easy to put it in a presentation, get some numbers out there, and blast out in a video to as many people as I can. So try and tell that story.
Natalie Menton, who was the lead to defeat that tax increase a couple years back. She is an army of one. She's just remarkable. She's on your show a lot. She was also on the RTD board. She knows this stuff. The term you used for her was liberty leader. That seemed to fall off your tongue pretty easily. What is a liberty leader?
A liberty leader is somebody who's standing up, who's speaking out, who's putting in the work to make their voice heard and push back against this authoritarianism that's turning Colorado in the wrong direction. Natalie Menton's 100% the example of that. Somebody who spends their time, their money, sheds their blood and tears to fight for something that is just a single ballot initiative that is going to come back again next year.
What's so ugly about these detaborings is that no doesn't mean no when it comes to government. They'll just keep asking and asking and asking. And it only takes one time for voters to get conned into saying, oh, it's just a few pennies of excess revenue and it costs more to return it than it would just go ahead and keep it. Not realizing that you're saying just keep it forever. So in a few years, when a few pennies becomes hundreds of thousands of dollars or millions of dollars in excess or $1 billion in excess, you've said yes forever. And that's why it's so important. Natalie Menton worked so hard. She won that fight by just a few hundred votes. That's how close it got. And it's going to be that close again. So give me another example of Free State Colorado, because that's a great issue that you've dive into. Give me another local issue.
Yeah, during the legislative session this year, I did a live stream with Michael Vance, who's the legislative director of the Libertarian Party of Colorado.
And Trump's VP candidate. Oh, it's J.D. Vance. I'm sorry.
He's going to think that's funny for sure. Michael Vance, legislative director, Libertarian Party of Colorado. We did a 2-hour live stream every Sunday night during the legislative session. The only exception was Easter. That's the only day we missed. But I mean, I don't know how many weeks that was, but it was a lot. And the whole idea was to go over the committee hearings. We didn't talk about anything being discussed on the floor, just committee hearings, day by day, trying to give people the tools, the ammunition to use their voice to show up at committee hearings, because that's where public comment is allowed. So individuals have that ability to speak for 2 or 3 minutes on a bill in front of the committee, 10 feet away from them, to look these socialists in the eyes and tell them how wrong they are. It's extremely empowering, and we are encouraging people to do it. And I know our videos generated that testimony for people to show up down at the state capitol, to write, to do remote testimony, but most importantly, to show up in person. And it was really empowering to say, hey, we're going to give people this ability to know what's going on at their state government, stuff that's not really discussed. Tune in every Sunday night and we'll go over it and show you what's happening. And here's a great way for people to get involved.
And the impact of that was to get people to show up at the Capitol. Was that the end goal?
Yes.
How do you measure that? How do you measure if it works or not?
It's hard to measure for sure, but I know some people would go down there and then send emails or send pictures, get on social media. We had a good group of people on our Zoom calls and our live stream on YouTube. And we'd hear from them every week, and they'd say, oh, I was down there last week and talked to people on this bill and met some other people who were also interested on this issue and invited them to join the YouTube live stream every week. So it was really building that community is what it took. A lot of what I'm trying to do with Free State Colorado is build this liberty community. We have a great liberty community. I mean, we have the Independence Institute, we have the Tabor Foundation, we have a lot of great groups out there who are doing a lot of wonderful things. But if we can network, work together, and share each other's work, elevate each other in a way that gets more exposure and keeps people connected, because I'm in it for the long haul.
Hang on a second. Let me think about this for a second. You want a kind of a libertarian way for people to work better together. Have you met libertarians? They are the picture of not working together. They are so individualistic that they are ineffective. As a party, I'm libertarian as a political philosophy. The party is silly, because I have found large L libertarians would rather win an argument than win an election. And I have found the weirdest people in the Libertarian Party. They have a home, and that's where they can go and be weird. But they're not what you call good at bringing people forward to embrace their ideas or their candidates. So, herding cats is nothing compared to trying to herd libertarians, because if you ask them to do A, they will do Z because you asked us to do A. Am I wrong?
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. It's a problem on what I would say the right in general. It seems like the left or anybody, and maybe the right-left is the wrong phrase, but a collectivist mindset, those individuals who kind of have that tell me what to do and I'll do it type of mentality, of course, are always going to be more organized and more capable of achieving their goals than a loose group of individuals who each have their own strong opinions and are maybe challenging each other on some level. So,
that was very polite. That's very diplomatic. Strong opinion. No, there are a bunch of weird-ass libertarians who cannot work with one another, and they are chronic malcontents. Convince me they can become an actual fighting force for liberty instead of just arguments.
It's a numbers game. It's a numbers game. For every 100 weirdos out there, there's 10 people who are going to show up. There's 5 people who are articulate, 1 who's going to run for office. I mean, you just got to keep casting that net wide and pulling in what you can and find that prized fish in there in your net as often as you can. But you got to keep working. And I think that's part of what I'm trying to do every week, putting out 2 or 3 videos and just putting that work out there. And, to other content creators out there and other people, it can be discouraging to see that, nobody's watching my video, nobody's paying attention, maybe only 10 people, maybe this one was 100, maybe this one was a couple hundred. But really, I'm just looking for one. I'm just looking for one individual who's going to actually do something, who's going to show up, who's going to speak up, maybe run for office, maybe get involved, maybe create their own website. So all you need is one person.
You answered that perfectly. I'm surprised. Not because I think low of you, but I'm surprised that you came up with that answer. You're right. I look at somebody like not Jane Norton, help me out, RAG. Oh my God, one of the Nortons, who she was a libertarian, and then she ran for office as a Republican. And then she became the Secretary of the Interior under George W. Why? Because it was that one person. That's what it was. Alzheimer's stinks, by the way. Anyway, finding that one person who becomes the next you, the next Corey Gaines, the next Natalie Menton, the next Kathleen Chandler, that's the multiplier effect. And you're right, it only takes finding that person. Have you found any of those people?
I found a few. I also host the Northern Colorado Liberty on the Rocks chapter, and it's really about building that community as well, bringing people in from the wild, some libertarians from the wild, and plugging them in. And maybe some of them never show up again, but if there's 1 or 2 who say, I'm going to go to that city council meeting, I'm going to write my county commissioner, maybe I'll run for office. I think that makes a difference, and I'm really hopeful. I am optimistic. I think Colorado's definitely changing. Part of the reason I'm so optimistic is we have so many new people here. Half the people in Colorado weren't born here. A lot of people don't have a sense of identity of what Colorado is. And I want to present Colorado as this libertarian, free-minded place where people come to create a new start, to live a new life, make new choices, to be free of the place they came from, and to make their own destiny here. And if they can associate that with some sort of political action, I think we can make a lot of ground.
You find joy in this. I don't want to get too touchy-feely on this, but how is that possible? That most people think about getting involved in government, going on a local board or commission, being a watchdog like you are for a local government, and they go, oh my God, I don't have time for that. That's just awful work. But there are some people who take to it like a fish to water. You're one of them. What's the secret?
Well, I'd say look at what people do find entertaining or interesting. For a lot of people, it's sports. Sports is their life. They love it so much. God help us when football season comes around. A lot of times it's video games nowadays for people, playing games, playing sports, losing themselves in some TV show or something like that. Well, I have to tell people, try politics, because politics is playing for keeps. It's real. You can play a video game, but at the end of the day, it doesn't make a difference. You're starting it over. As soon as you're done playing, it's over, you start again and keep playing. When you're playing politics, it's much more exciting because you have real world results and you can actually have an impact. And once you start having an impact, once you start recognizing that people are listening to you, that you can actually do something, it's going to be more fun, more addicting, and more exciting than any sports game or video game out there.
Can't believe I couldn't remember Gail Norton's name. That was just awful. She's a dear friend. Gail, I'm so sorry, please. Anyway, you find enjoyment out of it. The left has a propensity to want to get involved in government. Why? Because they want to tell us what to do. So if there's a energy advisory committee on a city, well, all the anti-fracking, anti-fossil fuel folks say, this is an opportunity for us to fight the man, and they go and do it. The rest of us are like, I got to get the kids to camp. I got to make some dinner. It's a different thing. That's why finding people who get turned on by this stuff is so rare. And it starts with first being a spectator. That's how I got it too. I was just a junkie until I found the Independence Institute, and I finally found a path, and it changed my life. I'm assuming you make a lot of money off this. Free State Colorado is kind of like the Drudge Report. It is a profit center for you. So you want to disclose how much it costs to be a member of Free State Colorado?
I can tell you how much it costs me to run it, from website registration to everything else. There's some costs associated, but it's not my full-time job. It's a hobby, do it on the side. And that's part of the reason it's probably so fun. It's because my paycheck doesn't depend on it. And it's a blast to be able to do something as a hobby, as entertainment, basically, and actually have an impact or do something.
Could you make money off of this? Could it grow into something? Are you interested, or is this is it?
Maybe. We'll see.
How do I know you're not going to get tired of this in 6 months? You've been doing it for a couple of years now, which is great. It is becoming an invaluable tool. You still like it?
I love it, yeah. 4 years I've been doing it since 2020, and I did some political work before. I've been there, spent nearly 3 years making my living, very small paychecks working in politics. There's not a lot of money there, as most people I'm sure can attest who've ever worked in grassroots politics especially. There's not a lot of opportunity there. So maybe, but I think, and I'm sure you might share some similar thoughts, having it as my own creation, my own control. I've worked for other organizations. I've worked for entities out there. And when you can't necessarily say everything you want to say or do everything you want to do, it takes some of the fun out of it. But because Free State Colorado is mine and I control it, I can do what I want with it. And I think that's part of the draw for me.
Give me some predictions. Let's talk about some of the elections this fall. You're close to those. Let's start off with Jefferson County. Are they going to get debruised?
No, I think Jefferson County voters are smart enough to turn down the initiative that the commissioners are pushing. One of the biggest benefits we have these days is social media. Very few people, less people than ever, trust traditional print media. Almost nobody trusts politicians. People are interested in finding out the real story. They're interested in looking behind the curtain and seeing what's going on. Everybody believes everything's a conspiracy or a psyop or what you name it. So it's much easier than ever, I think, for somebody to say, hey, these commissioners are lying to you. They're tricking you. They want to take your tax money away. I think that's a more mainstream message probably than it's ever been because of the political climate we find ourselves in. So I think voters are going to be mobilized and energized to push back against this authoritarianism we've been seeing.
What about the state legislature? Republicans think they've got a chance to make some gains. I think they're smoking crack.
I would say 5 state House seats, maybe 6 if we're lucky. On the state Senate side, probably at least 3. I would say there's opportunities for. My House district of Kevin Priola's term limited. That's a strong Republican district. I mean, that's the easy one to flip. That's going to go to Scott Bright, the Republican candidate, if he puts the work in and he gets enough support. So I think that's an easy one. A couple others across the state I think is very possible. So I don't think Republicans are going to gain massively in November, but I think there's going to be some gains and some chipping away, but it all depends on who puts the work in.
You've been working on something up north on a takings issue. I don't remember it all. Fill me in. Unfortunately,
there's a really tragic story out of Brighton, and it's called Polizzi Farm. It's a 100-year-old family farm that is under threat of shutting down due to eminent domain. So when we talk about local governments, a lot of people don't even know what a metro district is. You mentioned earlier, there's 5,000 governments in the state of Colorado. Metro district is one of those small little line items on your property tax bill, but they can have the power to eminent domain your property and tear up your family farm that you've been farming for a century, your family's been farming for a century, build a drainage ditch for some new subdivision, and potentially put you out of business. So the City Council of Brighton made a horrible mistake last year by creating this metro district and granting them too much power, not realizing what they were doing.
Which metro district?
I'd have to look at what it's called. I don't remember off the top of my head.
What's the purpose?
To build a subdivision, to build new housing, basically. And to do that, they need to build a drainage piping, some drainage plumbing underground there, and it's going to go right under this farm, unfortunately. So the city council screwed up. They've been extremely apologetic. There's been protests. I went to one of the city council meetings. It's shocking and encouraging how many people are showing up, how much outrage there is in the community against the city council, who says they can't do anything about it because the metro district now is out of their control and they can't stop them in any way. So Polizzi Farm went to court. Unfortunately, just a few weeks ago, lost. The fight's not over yet. They're still appealing and seeing what they can do. But it's a perfect example of why people need to pay attention at that local level. And hopefully these Brighton city councilors can be held accountable come next election.
Got 5,000 governments, special districts, metro districts, and you don't get to vote for a lot of these districts. They're created, and the people who own the land get to decide who's on the board. And so they'll give some of their employees perhaps a square foot of land, and now that person can be on the board and do these things. It's out of control, and it's sad that unelected people can have that much power over Coloradans. And it's everywhere, and it's growing, and no one's covering it except sites like yours.
There's a need out there, I think, to report on those local issues and to try and raise some awareness. And you might see one article in the Denver Post or the Denver Gazette mentioned, and then weeks later it's forgotten. Nobody pays attention. So I do a weekly roundup every week, or nearly every week at least, and go over some of the top news stories to try and create a database, to create a resource for people to say, hey, here's what's going on. Here's something I might have missed, and here's something I can maybe even do something about.
I wanted to have you here because, one, I want people to go to your site. I think it's just something that they ought to poke at every now and then to know you're out there, and also maybe get on your show and talk about whatever issue is important. But I really want people to look at one guy doing one thing that he enjoys and it making a sizable difference. I'm just wondering if you could do that too. And it's an enjoyable endeavor, and you're changing the world. From your computer in your mother's basement. I'm assuming your mother's basement because you're a libertarian. Any last words? Where people want to go, where do they go?
freestatecolorado.com is the mothership. Telegram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, of course. Follow me there. But really, the main message to people is get involved locally, show up at events. You know, the future belongs to those who show up, to those who put in the work. And that's really the first step. Be that spectator. Go and ask questions, find out who represents you at the local level, and have a voice. Stand up, speak out, because the alternative is not good.
Even going to a committee meeting and talking, you end up meeting people, and that's where the magic happens. Brandon, thanks so much. Keep it up.
Thank you, John. Appreciate it.
If you enjoyed that conversation, by all means, click one of these other great programs. We have the best conversations with the most fascinating Coloradans. And subscribe to our channel. Just click down below and hit that little bell button too. You don't want to miss a single show.